All right, we are live. What is going on, interwebs? Day 5 of our 5-day serve challenge. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Almost the weekend.
Woo! That's right. Do us a favor, comment down below the things that you liked the most about the serve challenge. And if you happen to miss any of the previous 4 days, here's the link to the workbook and the recordings so that you can see all this stuff. Friendly reminder, if you don't do this today, I know I've been plugging it every single day, but if you don't do this today, $49. You won't be able to do it for anything less than $199 come tomorrow. So do not delay. Now is the time to go grab these recordings and this beautiful workbook that we've been running you through. As you guys are commenting down below what you liked the most, I'm going to do the Lightspeed 4-day recap. You ready for me?
Boom.
All right.
Shall we preface before the recap? Today's instruction is very, very brief. It's about the legs. You talk about loading versus jumping. Yep. And so the recap, we're just kind of going over things to jog your memory about what you have witnessed in the last 4 days. And then we open up Q&A. We're going to spend some time with Q&A today to really make sure we get you guys straight before we say goodbye.
True that. Any questions from any of the days? We're ready for you. And we are going to impart some instruction. Don't leave. There is important things we're going to talk about. There's just not as many as they've been on previous days. All right. Time you ready? How fast can I do this? Ooh. Day 1, we talked about the continental grip. It's not just the index knuckle, it's also the heel pad. Talked about a drill. You can look at your workbook to figure out what that is. Then we talked about the serve stance. Got to get your back toe even with your front heel, and your toes should point in a line to the outside net post if you're left-handed. Always mirror everything that we're saying. Penalty box drill, we talked about why this is important to get really comfortable with that arm really extending up and getting in that rear pelvic lateral tilt that creates the cartwheel power that we're looking for to crush big serves. And then to close out day 1, we talked about how and where to toss the ball. I don't have a tennis ball. Yes, I do. Talked about how you've got to hold it in your fingertips with either an ice cream setup or a tulip setup. We don't want the ball on the palm of your hands. Talked about releasing at eye level. Talked about relieving all of the joints in the arm. And then we got into day 2. Day 2, in my opinion, being one of the most impactful days. We talked about the right to left or the salute motion, the way that your racket is supposed to move to really help alleviate the odds of you ending up in waiter's tray. You don't even know what to do when I'm just on a roll, dude.
I mean, you're on fire, buddy.
Then we talked about how we don't want to just think about placing our racket down our back. We want to think about attacking that ball with our elbow to activate that racket drop. To close out day 2, we talked about the pull-up drill, how to sync our back foot with our arms and how to make sure we're pushing against the ground to activate all of this kinetic chain together. Day 3, we talked about the weighted sock drill. Day 3 was about rhythm. So we showed you a couple different things with the weighted sock to make sure you really understand how to smooth all this out. You really are trying to pick it up now. Then we talked about the 3-finger drill and how you create tension with your bottom 2 fingers that prevents you from getting in the racket drop. But then when you release, what did I say? This goes against my time. I don't appreciate that. You just not appreciate this at all. I'm going to re-say it. I would like a minute deducted from my time for the inconvenience. We talked about how your bottom 2 fingers can create tension that would prevent you from getting in that racket drop. But then when you release that tension, all of a sudden your elbow flies up and you're in this perfect racket drop. So the 3-finger drill, we talked about how that just helps us find what it feels like to release the tension in our bottom 2 fingers. We are going to add them back when we serve. This is just a drill. We connect it all together. Same thing we were doing with the weighted sock drill and the 3-finger drill. Combine the 2 for the figure 8 drill to really sync up your rhythm. Then we got into yesterday, day 4. We got into the Ken to Heart drill. It's called the Ken to Heart drill because we learned this drill from Ken to Heart. And we talked about how you want to approach the ball with the blade of your racket at the very last second is when the pronation of the wrist happens. We also talked about contact point and how pronation is actually just what happens when you fully extend correctly. You shouldn't be having to think about rotating your wrist. You should be reaching up to the ball as high as you can with the blade of your racket and then unfurling your hand at the top. This is a great drill to sort of self-assess whether your contact point was doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then lastly, we finished with the thumb down drill. We know at full extension, Our hand is going to pronate to know exactly where. We showed you that the thumb down drill is what is going on to make sure your follow through. And internal shoulder rotation is everything that you need it to be and more. 3 minutes and 43 seconds.
We'll say 3.5.
Your interruption.
We'll give you
your
3.5.
rude interruption. So guys, that was a summary of days 1 through 4. I did it pretty gosh darn quickly. If that was too fast for you, by the recordings.
You'll have questions. We'll be here for them when you do.
And that is fun.
Yeah. So day 5, this is all about your lower body.
Way more likely to answer your questions if you buy the record. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So we get asked all the time, like, where does power come from? And most people, ascertain that it's the power source is the legs, and it is, and the legs are responsible for 50% of the power. The real gift of the serve is that we have a wrist, right? The ability to snap and get the arm moving like a whip is where we can get a ton of power. But with that being said, it doesn't mean that we can get away without using our legs. But it does mean that we don't have to jump out of our shoes. We just have to learn to load appropriately. And no drill is better than the Kovacs loading drill.
Guess why it's called the Kovacs loading drill? Because we learned it from Mark Kovacs.
Yeah. So Mark Kovacs, who guy's a doctorate in sports science, former professional player.
Much smarter.
Worked with the Golden State Warriors, but the guy's
he's the dude.
gosh darn smart. So he worked through this loading drill, and as some of you have heard, that the serve is a lot like throwing the shot put. This always creates a big argument. It's not exactly like the shot put. The loading phase and the uncoiling phase is a lot like the shot put. And so let me show you.
Your arms quite a bit different.
Yeah, I'll show you what's going on with this loading drill, and this is how we want to practice to load appropriately. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this ball back by my heel, just slightly behind my heel. If you're not super flexible through the thoracic spine, you can put it even with the heel. That's fine. But you want to make sure that the ball's far enough behind you that you have to coil. Here I'm just showing that it's lined up with my heel. What I like to do here is work through the motion, shadow it, right? So here I've kind of got the right to left going. I'm already in my power position. And from here, I'm working on bending down, right? But when I'm bending down, the focus is that I'm starting to load some energy, right? When your knees bend, you should be loading some energy. So as I reach down and get the ball, you'll see that I'm still keeping my tossing arm up, and I'm pulling the ball to my chin. Now, this is where it really starts to look like a shot put, right? Like, this is pretty similar to the shot put. Now, when you uncoil, this is where you're unloading. So you've loaded energy down, as seen with my knees, and then we're working on getting energy up. And this is the big takeaway. When you're setting up like the shot put, it sets you up for energy to go up and then out. And that is what we do on the serve. Way too often we think about on the serve that we hit out into the court, right? And then we pull our head down, we hit in the net.
Yeah, throw in the comments, how many of you have been taught that it's like throwing a baseball?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Baseball in the comment section if you've heard that.
Yeah. And it's much more like throwing the Hail Mary, right? If Brady dropped back and threw the bomb, that would be more similar to the serve, but not throwing a baseball, nothing linear, right? But so now what ends up happening is I pull the ball up to the chin and I start unloading. Watch my elbow here as the elbow goes up. And then you can see that I still land pretty similar to a serve. And I'm tossing it over. I'm trying to get it as far as I can. Aiming for the court, why not, right? So same exercise. I'm pulling it up, and then from here, again, loading down, and then pushing up, and then landing out. All right, this is where we get the cartwheel effect. So when you hear coaches say serving is like a cartwheel, right? Like energy goes up and then out, not just forward. So we worked with the client yesterday, and he had something similar that a lot of people do. That when they get ready to serve, they put almost all of their weight on their front foot. And so what we want you to check and see to see if you're doing it right. When your weight goes forward, is your right knee as a righty, left knee as a lefty? Are both knees bent? Because what we see too often is that the front knee bends and then the back leg stays straight and you're not loading correctly. Then we start getting issues with the uncoiling process of the serve. It's true. Yep. So this is the exercise, right? Nothing super fancy here. Watch it one more time. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some serves. Now I'm going to show you myself here, so the mechanics kind of line up. This is, let me go back here. This is pinpoint. So remember, pinpoint, I'm going to show you about a pinpoint platform because we got some questions that were sent to us, just asking for clarification. But the way that you load applies to both stances. All right, so from here, you see that the elbow has drawn back. This part is important. My elbow has drawn back so that it's on the non-dominant side of my body. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it as well. And this is when you start seeing the right to left as well. Now, here's the part that's important. There's two ways that we really get power, right? We have outside of legs. So 50% of the power is coming from your legs. The other 50 comes from coiling, and that's why we place the tennis ball down by our feet. So this helps me coil. And then the other is from this shoulder and hip rear pelvic tilt, right? It's getting my hitting elbow below my hitting hand. And as I work up to the serve, what you'll see is that changes, right? So that plane switches. We know that two sides of a plane can't be on the same side. But so when you put this together with loading, and what you'll see here is like, there's the energy on the pinpoint. I brought my back foot up. And now as I uncoil, corkscrew and then uncoil, then you see the racket drop. And so it doesn't matter whether it's pinpoint or platform, it's going to look the same. So platform here, my feet just simply don't come together. I keep my feet separate, but all the other mechanics are the same. And when we do this correctly, this is important to highlight, we land on our non-dominant foot. So for righties, we land on our left foot. Our right foot kicks back for counterbalance. For a lefty, it's going to be reversed. Okay. So that is really what we're looking at for the loading phase. This is what we're working on trying to use the legs appropriately. So I've got one more thing to show you. Let's see, are there questions regarding the loading phase? Or maybe we'll jump into that.
I don't see anything but just nice things right now. Nobody's even asked one question yet. It must be a lazy Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of
nice stuff though. Brandon said I took a bucket of balls yesterday and applied it. Not a single fault. Not trying to boost my own ego. That's balls fun forever. Not trying to boost my own ego, but y'all, this stuff is truly changing my whole serve. Brandon,
virtual high five. Let's go.
I'd love to hear it.
Sick. Yeah.
Passive wrist and loose arm, along with tossing arm being straight. Those are his favorite things. I don't have a speed gun, but I'm pretty sure I surfed Twitter once. I love it, Jake.
That is some ROI right there, buddy.
That's right. That is right. Then we get a bunch of people saying hello. Steve said he liked the ball sock exercise. This is a statement / general question. I heard that the power should come from the right leg from a righty.
Yeah, so you want to...
Is that true?
Yes and no.
Tennis ball.
Yeah. Yes. The reason being is that, let me just go back to this here. We'll back it up for just a second. But we don't want to pretend like the left leg isn't involved. Let me just kind of clarify what that means. So the right leg powering down is going to be responsible for the back hip firing. And what we know is that the faster the back hip climbs up, the bigger the serve. And it equates. So our tour, what we see, WTA, ATP, the faster a player has their hip go up, the faster the serve is. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So my hip, I'll just leave that up so we can see where my hip goes. So as I work up, you can see the hip has now fired and ends up here, right? Not bad for an old man, right? So, but I mean, like on the pros, you're going to see that it accelerates to that space higher and much faster.
Not all pros.
Yeah, not all of them, but what I want to make sure that we clarify with that comment is that the left foot is still really, really important, right? The left foot, we don't want to bring all the weight to it. We want to be, divided between the two. But you can see here, when I load up, both heels are off the ground. So both legs are firing.
I think this is right on time for Manish. Excuse me. With the power coming from the legs, how high should we jump to get the max power?
Yeah. And we actually had a question earlier too that was like basically saying, hey, I have bad knees, I can't jump. How are you going to help me? This is the difference with loading and jumping. So what jumping really does, the higher you jump, the better you improve your margin over the net, and the targeting really improves. Now, the force in which you jump up is really what we're talking about. That's loading and unloading. But can you hit a big serve without jumping? Yeah. So going back to my friend that asked about what about for us that have knee injuries, here what you're going to see is that I'm still loading energy. How do we know that, right? Because my knees are bent. My knees are bent. The heel is up on both feet. But now as I work through the serve, watch my feet here. It's not super dynamic, is it? Like I'm like maybe a slide. Yeah, maybe a credit card under this feet. But
that serves in the 120s. So
yeah,
you do not have to jump. So kind of Manish, to answer your question is you don't have to jump that high. It's more about making sure you load your legs into the ground and create that resistance back.
Yeah, we talked about Wawrinka yesterday, right? Like he has one of the shortest jumps on the tour. Guy has a really good serve. But for those with injured knees, right, like you don't have to be just absolutely massive with your jump here, right? You still have to get the rest of the strokes working. You still have to have a loose hand and arm. You got to have a flexible rotator cuff. But here, like I'm really limiting my jump and still hitting an effective serve.
Manish, hopefully that helps. I don't have any more questions in here right now, and you know what happens when I don't have any questions.
Here comes a pitch, y'all. Y'all better start asking questions.
Yeah, start asking some questions. I am going to pitch you guys, if you've gone through this and you're like, I feel like I understand, but sure do wish good old Scott and Nate to take a look at me doing this. We do serve workshops probably 6-7 times a year. We've got one coming up here in our hometown of Virginia Beach, Virginia on October 12th. If you go over to PlayYourCourt.com, there's all kinds of cool stuff there. But in the top nav, you will see Explore More and Private Tennis Clinics. And when you click on that, you'll see all the stuff we've got coming up. But yeah, we would love to work with you guys in person. As fun as it is to work with you virtually like this, certainly in person, we can make a much greater impact. So if that's something that's for you, check that out.
All right, so let's go through some checkpoints real quick. Because what you're going to do, boys and girls, is that you're going to video yourself. All right, we want you to video yourself. That's where the feedback needs to come. So let me give you some checkpoints. When you're working through your serve, checkpoint number 1. Does the hitting arm get on the non-dominant side of the body? Checkpoint 1.
Not even going to talk about that stance. Just ignoring day 1 altogether. Real nice.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Real nice. Like, what Scott's saying, I do apologize, but we'll say this is checkpoint 2. Checkpoint 1.
Checkpoint 1 is technically the continental grip. Checkpoint 2 would be the.
No, we're not reviewing it all. Like we at this point, we assume you have a continental grip. You don't have a continental grip.
You know what assuming does.
Right. So checkpoint 1, let's get the back toe lined up with the front heel or some degree of it. We really want to make sure that we have the ability for this back hip to open up. All right. Checkpoint 2, we just talked about when you work through the power position, make sure that the hitting arm is on the non-dominant side of the body. 3, the tossing arm has to stay up. All right. So from here, we really want to see that tossing arm get as high as it can. I could come back even a little bit more here. This is your corkscrewed position. This is where you're really, really coiled up. So from here, when you're reviewing this, this is what we want to see to know that you're in the appropriate power position. Can you measure from your tossing arm to your hitting elbow and then draw that same line with your hips and your knees? right? And the more we see this tilt, the more you're loaded up, the more you're going to be able to uncoil, the further you're going to be able to uncoil. All right. So the next checkpoint is your racket moving right to left. It is there, right? The next checkpoint, does your elbow lead to the ball? This is important.
So many checkpoints, so little time.
So little time. So from there, do you make contact with your arm fully extended? So that's my racket head there, a little bit hard to see. Do you get your arm extended? All right. And if those things are happening, good news.
You serve 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're serving pretty darn big.
All right, we do have a couple questions flowing here now that you've checkpointed us to death. I'm just kidding. Let's see here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was good. It was good instruction. Spriggs, does it matter how high you can jump to make any impact on serve speed? I think we probably were in the middle of answering this as you asked it, so I think we just kind of cover this.
Mm-hmm.
This may not be completely baked, but I think the mindset of jumping is to create more margin for error over the net, as far as I'm concerned as a coach. If I want power from your legs, I just want to see you bending and pushing into the ground. How high you get up off it. The benefit that I would see is if you jump 3 feet off the ground, you're 3 feet taller and you have more margin over the air, margin for error over the net. So don't think about how high you can jump determining sort of like how big your serve is. The two aren't really even that correlative.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to say
Yeah,
that?
I mean, the only thing that you can look up is that sometimes the higher the jump, the more the load. Like if you think back to Andy Roddick, how low he got with his knees, that doesn't really apply to most of us, right? Like a dude's
we're
professional
talking
athlete.
An extra 2%, even
Yeah.
when that's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like if he had bent a little bit less, he would serve all of a sudden 90 instead
Yeah.
of 150.
Well, and it's like you were saying too, with the, on the reverse of that, we see players that have a really good load that don't jump very high at all and still hit a huge serve, right? Like IU Wawrinka.
Yep. All right. Spriggs, hopefully that helps. Stuart says, can you explain more how the hitting arm is on the non-dominant side? What would it look like otherwise?
So,
a visual here.
Yep. So
I'm going to hide the comment
I
there.
don't have video. I do have video, but I'm not going to show you other students. So what happens sometimes on the serve is that when we work through our motion, right? So from here, I'm tossing, and you can see here that my hitting arm is on the right side of my body. And so from here, as I go to initiate with the legs, the racket goes this way, and it gets into this limited racket drop, still on my right side. Okay, so when that happens, it's really, really problematic because it's impossible to be in a good racket drop because I'm internally rotated already. So in contrast, what I want is to make sure that I get here. And when the elbow goes back, now what happens is when I jump, it's way easier for the elbow to climb and be in the appropriate position. So just think of it in these terms. Are you internally rotated, right? Or are you externally rotated? And we really want to make sure with the serve, you can do it with your hand, that you get externally rotated and not allowing the arm to come this way. Most people don't even know they're doing it until they film themselves. But if you have the arm on the dominant side, it's going to be really, really tough to hit a big serve.
Indeed. Indeed. The only question we have left right now, you guys are in danger of getting pitched to again, is about the technology that you're using on the slow motion. What is that, OnForm?
Yeah, it's OnForm. It's not cheap.
Can't you just really film yourself in slow motion on your phone for
With the iPhones now, like you can film it at you can film it in regular speed and then play it back in slow motion. But what I would use, I mean, honestly, probably the easiest way to do it is download CapCut, what we use for social media, and it has like all the tools for slow-mo.
You just film it in slow-mo right there on your iPhone.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy anything, Kat. You got all the tools you need right there, probably in your pocket already.
OnForm's really cool, but OnForm does a lot of things, but it allows us to have lockers. So when we are working with students, we can kind of keep track of their progress and whatnot.
Indeed. All right, we got a few more questions flowing in here really quickly because I'm seeing a lot of people saying goodbye, and I want to make sure they don't miss the link to the recordings. I'm sorry. All jokes aside, this is the last time I will push this on you guys, but you're going to want to rewatch this stuff. You're going to go out there, you're going to work on this stuff. You're going to forget a piece of what we said. You're going to want the workbook to print out, put it in your bag. Go here, PlayYourCourt.com/recordings. Also, while you're at PlayYourCourt, poke around. We have over 3,000 coaches nationwide that'll come to your local courts and help you with your serve. We have a community that helps you find evenly matched practice partners. There are over 500,000 people, both free and paid, inside of that now. So you go find some humans if you jump in there. And we do a whole bunch of other stuff. So poke around on PlayYourCourt and explore all the fantastic things that we do. Philip would like to know, what is strategy on first serve versus second serve? My first is faster. Second is slower because I'm worried about the double fault, so I end up teeing it up for the opponent and them crushing the return. May I?
That's a great question.
May I?
Get it?
It's very rare that I know the answer to one of these questions.
Get it. We'll see.
So we like to impart spin on the second serve. We want the racket head speed to be the same. And the beauty of spin, particularly slice, in my opinion, at the rec level, is under pressure, you can accelerate through the ball and know that the faster you swing, the more likely the ball is to stay in the court because you're creating more spin on the ball that keeps it in the court. So first serve, we're typically teaching flat most of the time. There's going to certainly be times where it makes sense to impart slice or kick. But yeah, the first serve should typically be bigger. The second serve should typically be something more reliable. But I think the misconception is that we're going to slow down and be careful. The way you be careful is actually by keeping the same racket head speed. And instead of imparting flat contact, impart spin, whether it's slice or kick. And that spin will keep your ball in the court. There's no way you have something.
That's just the main takeaway is that you should never ever decelerate on your second serve. The arm should be moving at equal speeds, right? So what we'll tell students is if you've got a serve that's at 80 miles per hour and you have a serve that's at 20 miles per hour, so first serve, second serve, start working on getting spin. Get them both at like 65, 70 miles per hour. And that way you give yourself two chances to make that serve. Because it just doesn't make sense to go out there and like maybe you hit 3 aces, but you're serving at 20% first serve percentage, and then you're getting teed up on the second serve over and over again. So you're better off kind of splitting the difference.
Indeed. All right, Philip, hopefully that helps. Joey would like to know, do we have the ability of sending you videos of our serves that you view and provide feedback?
Go ahead. I got something to sell. Go ahead.
We sure do. Yeah, so jokes aside, that community membership that we offer, a heavy piece of that is kind of like a Netflix for tennis tips where you can search backhand power or how to hit a drop shot, or you can find the instruction you need for your skill level. The elevated version of that called PlayYourCourt Plus, which is $119.99 a year, does allow you to submit one video per quarter to Nate Dogg in the flesh, real life, and he will provide you some feedback. We used to allow this every month, and Nate Dogg's getting really busy. I'm going to be honest with you. We have a leadership team retreat here in October. I can't promise you that will be the answer to that question after that's over. So if you want some of Nate Dogg's time on video analysis,
better get on it.
Better get on it.
And believe you me, there is a whole lot of them after this serve challenge, which is great. This is what we're here for.
Why we're here.
Yeah, when we started doing this, it was all about talking about it and giving the opportunity for players to work with us, whether it be in person or online. So check it out.
You're getting at least Joey and Jake. Looks like. Yep.
Cool.
I couldn't find the workbook. Is it on the site where the recordings are?
Well, let's go back to Jake's question. How do you do a video analysis?
He said, do you do a video analysis?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we said yes. Yeah.
Yes. Spriggs, you'll get an automated email when you signed up that gives you the link to the workbook. And if you can't find that automated email, it's probably in your spam. And if you still can't find it in your spam, email support@PlayYourCourt.com and they will email you that link. I obviously can't say it on screen here because it's from like people that bought it. PK, I purchased the recordings during a previous serve challenge, but I can't find a way to access them. What am I missing? They're under your premium video courses section. So log into your PlayYourCourt account. They're going to be right there in the premium video courses section. There's a lot of stuff in there. If you have a plus membership, you're going to have to do some digging. We got a lot of good stuff in there. Steve, I tell you what, if you bring your racket to the nest in 2025, we will give you personalized instruction.
Yeah, we got you, man.
Yep.
Right there. We're gonna clear the dance floor. People are gonna think we're dancing,
That's
but
right.
we're actually gonna work on your serve.
That's right.
That's incredible.
Thank you guys so much. We have too many thank yous in here for me to even show them on the screen, but guys, we really appreciate this. This is the feedback, turning the camera on and having somebody say something nice to us back versus just silence is what makes these live challenges more fun. We're talking about maybe putting together a add power to your forehand challenge. Type power into the comment section if that's something that you're interested in.
Create that.
Yeah. What are you up to next week?
Yeah.
All right, guys, listen, it's been a fantastic 5 days. We really appreciate you. If we provided you value, you know what to do. Go grab the recordings. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What else do we have for them? Is there anything else we need to tell them other than have a fantastic weekend and smack big aces?
Get out there, practice. There is a pitching limit on the shoulder, so be safe. Don't go out there and spend 3 hours working on this.
It's true.
You can get out there for 45 minutes. Just get out there and do it a few times a week, right? And I think you'll see some really, really big improvements.
Thank you, guys. Steve, thank you. Mike, thank you. Kat, Andy, Philip, John, Craig. Thank you, guys all. We appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you.
Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on some live streams here in the future.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.